Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was Asura's reincarnation? Forbidden Desires Naruto x Femme Sasuke, Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. And your future is death. Suddenly, two Senbons flew from the tree and pierced Zabuza's neck, killing him. A Kiri-oi nin, hunter ninja, dropped in and went to Zabuza's body. Kakashi checked his pulse and sighed in relief. The Nukenin was dead. The oi nin spoke, "Thank you, Konoha nin. I've been tracking him for a long time, you have allowed me to kill him." The Jonin stepped back, allowing the Kiri nin to grab Zabuza's corpse. In a shunshin, he disappeared with the body. Well, now that that's dealt with, Kakashi started before walking a few steps and collapsing to the floor. "Kakashi-sensei," Sakura cried, and walked towards her unconscious teacher. He had overused his Sharingan, Sayuri stated as she deactivated her own. Naruto picked him up in a fireman's carry and allowed Tazuna to show them to the way to his home. The five arrived at Tazuna's house. Knocking on the door, a young lady dressed in a short-sleeved pink shirt with long, dark blue hair opened it. "Konnichiwa," were Tazuna-san's security detail, "Konoha no Dainanahan," Naruto introduced, "This is Uchiha Sayuri, and this is Haruno Sakura. The person who I'm carrying is my sensei, Hatake Kakashi. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Konnichiwa. I'm Tsunami, the daughter of your client," she greeted. Tazuna commented, "I wouldn't have made it without them. We were ambushed by 3 ninja. Thank you. Please make yourself at home," Tsunami said as she ushered the team into the house. There was a kid wearing a yellow shirt, green overalls and a white hat with blue stripes in the house. "That is Inari, my son," Tsunami introduced. Then she led the team to 2 bedrooms. "These are the guest rooms. There are 2 futons per room. Anyo saw, Sayuri, Sakura, who would you like to bunk with?" asked Naruto. Sakura cried immediately, "Sayuri-chan." Sayuri gave a defeated sigh and agreed. Besides, it was in her agenda to get further away from Naruto, not closer. Bunking with Naruto would be a mistake. "All right then. Let's split up and meet in 2 hours, Naruto suggested before entering one of the rooms. He set Kakashi down on the futon and tried to activate his 6-paths Sage mode to revitalize Kakashi. However, he felt extremely fatigued and was unable to do so. Asura explained, "Naruto-kun, you can only use it 30 minutes in one day at your current level as your body is unable to handle any more than that. The time limit can be extended, but for now just rest. When you wake, train up your taijutsu. Your overcompensation almost ended your life if not for Sayuri. Now rest." Naruto felt drowsy and collapsed onto the awaiting futon. 2 hours later, the blonde groaned and blinked as he sat up, his eyes adjusting to the brightly lit room. It was 4 in the afternoon and Naruto felt like training. When he got downstairs, Sayuri and Sakura were already seated at the table, having high tea. He sat down and picked up a biscuit from a plate. After chewing, he asked, "Shall we have training?" Sakura nodded, excited to improve her taijutsu. Sayuri silently channeled chakra to her eyes, which turned from onyx to a beautiful vermilion hue. 2 tomos lined a ring surrounding each of her black pupils. "I awakened my Sharingan. When Kakashi wakes, I'll have him train me in its usage," Sayuri spoke. Naruto replied, "All right then. For now I'll be working on mostly taijutsu. Do you wish to join me, Sakura?" The pink-haired girl nodded eagerly. "Sayuri, can you teach me ninjutsu?" Naruto asked sheepishly after humbling himself down. "PFF'd," Sayuri snorted. "All right then. If you're gonna be of any use, you might as well learn something. Just find me once you're done with your taijutsu." With that, the Uchiha walked out of the door. Naruto raised an eyebrow but was delighted. Come on Sakura. Let's go practice our taijutsu. While the Haruno practiced her stances, Naruto went through taijutsu katas, placing emphasis on perfecting the forms and fluidity of the transition between each one. All the way, Asura gave him pointers such as to vary the strength of his blows and the speed of his transitions to confuse the enemy. After all, unpredictability was his forte. Many feints were incorporated into the sequences and other unnecessary maneuvers were scrapped completely from the kata. Within 3 hours, his taijutsu standard was improved to roughly that of a chunin. It would take much more to catch a jonin like Kakashi off guard, though. In such cases, his rank served to deceive the enemy into believing that he was of such a standard expected of those with the genin rank. At 7, he approached Sayuri for a ninjutsu crash course. "Dobi, were you going to make me wait forever?" spoke Sayuri as she stopped in the middle of her training. "Sorry about that. Can we begin now?" Naruto apologized. "All right. Basically, ninjutsu manipulates chakra to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do, like breathe fire or level the ground. To do an elemental jutsu, there are mainly 2 parts, nature transformation and shape transformation. After you mold chakra, nature transformation is applied first. This characterizes the jutsu's element. Next, you apply shape transformation, which modifies the chakra for the purpose of the jutsu. For example, my fireball jutsu is my chakra converted to fire and shaped into a ball." "Understood." Naruto nodded. "So, how do I apply nature transformation?" Sayuri replied, "It comes naturally to one based on the person's elemental affinity. To test for your affinity, you first need to channel your chakra to a piece of chakra paper. I don't have that at the moment, so you have to get it from Kakashi-sensei." "Well, go ahead, I'll wait." Naruto returned to the house and found his sensei still asleep. Naruto woke him up temporarily to ask permission to borrow chakra paper. Without questioning, Kakashi gave 2 sheets to him and went back to sleep. When he returned, Sayuri exclaimed, "Perfect. Give me one, I'll demonstrate." She held one sheet between her index finger and thumb before sending chakra to it. It wrinkled and then burst into a small flame, reducing it to ashes. "My elements are fire and lightning. If yours is fire, Kaden, or lightning, Raiden lightning style, it will burn or wrinkle respectively. If it is water, or Sweden, it'll become damp. Earth or Doden earth style and it'll crumble. With wind, futon, the paper will tear. Now, try it out. Release your chakra." Naruto followed her instructions. A huge gale broke out around him and the trees around him had their barks cracked. Branches snapped and leaves flew everywhere in a storm of chaos. Sayuri was pushed back and she glared at him, causing him to stop. The Uchiha grumbled, "Perhaps I wasn't clear enough in my instructions. Kindly channel your chakra, not release it. I apologize for my poor word choice. Please exercise some chakra control," Sayuri snapped sarcastically. Naruto's sweat dropped. To any other shinobi, releasing and channeling chakra would mean the same. However, his chakra was so dense, so potent and voluminous that chakra control was the key difference between the two. This time, chakra emitted from his fingers and entered the special piece of paper. With a loud, sickening rip, 2 perpendicular lines formed across the paper, quartering it. And that wasn't it. The first piece burst into a huge flame which engulfed it, reducing it into tiny black ashes. The second turned so soggy that the entire piece dissolved. The third crumbled into fine dust so small that it appeared that it had disintegrated, and the last wrinkled rapidly, crushing itself into a paper ball. Sayuri was agape. Firstly, what the hell? Sheepishly, he rubbed the back of his head. "I don't believe my eyes, but things happen, I guess." She spoke again, this time much calmer as she regained her bearings and Uchiha demeanor. "Well then, I suppose I could teach you some fire jutsus." Let's start with the Kaiden. Gokaku no Jutsu, began Sayuri. Briefly, she ran through the jutsu theory and hand seals. Within 30 minutes, he could throw a decent fireball. To be honest, she was a little jealous that he got it down quicker than she did when she first started. Sure, there was a lot of room for improvement, but to be able to even launch a decent-sized fireball was amazing in her eyes. Next, they moved on to the Kaiden. Hosenka no Jutsu, Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Since it was essentially splitting the fireball into smaller fireballs, Naruto got the shape transformation much faster this time and learnt the jutsu within 15 minutes. He never bragged though, choosing to instead improve his current arsenal of 2 jutsus. He pushed his limits to increase their range and intensity but only succeeded by a small margin. At 8, Kakashi woke and came by to supervise training. At this point, Sakura joined them. Upon hearing of Sayuri's 2-tomo Sharingan and Naruto's 5-element wonder, Kakashi explained that he only knew of 2 people who had both occurrences. Uchiha Obito, my former teammate, awakened the Sharingan with 2 tomos already present. He was trying to protect me after I got my left eye slashed. Later, he died saving me from a cave collapse and had me take his left Sharingan, recounted Kakashi. Could it be because both were awakened during the need to save someone? Asked Naruto. The white-haired Jonin shrugged. It's possible. After all, most Uchihas awaken their Sharingan when they are under incredible mental stress, usually due to the death of a loved one. This is why they call it the curse of hatred, because the more losses an Uchiha faces, the larger his hatred and thus, the more powerful his eyes become. In Sayuri's case, there's too little evidence from the past, though it's still a possibility. I guess that'll have to wait till she has children, huh? Said Uchiha blushed before suppressing her embarrassment. What about Naruto and his 5 elements? Sakura asked. Well, I've only heard of one man who had all 5 elemental affinities. He is the Shinobi no Kami, god of shinobi, the Shodai Hokage, Hashirama Senju, Kakashi explained. Whoa! Sayuri gasped in amazement. Naruto wasn't so surprised as he was the Shodai in his past life. On the other hand, he was glad that Sayuri was showing more emotion than she did on a regular basis. Hopefully that meant she was warming up to the team. Kakashi continued, my elemental affinity is lightning, however, with my Sharingan, I have copied over 1,000 jutsus from all 5 elements. This earned me the title of Copy Ninja no Kakashi, Copy Ninja Kakashi. However, the problem with performing jutsus that are not aligned with your affinity is that they take more chakra and chakra control to execute properly, so just a warning before you guys may get any ideas. Except Naruto, of course. So, I'll use 2 shadow clones to teach Naruto and Sakura ninjutsu while I myself, the original, will instruct Sayuri in the Sharingan as well as ninjutsu. Alright, the 3 genins nodded and Kakashi formed shadow clones. While the original focused on teaching Sayuri Sharingan tactics, it was impossible to teach everything he knew about the eyes as she only had 2 tomos. Thus, he moved on to ninjutsu and taught her his one and only original technique, the Chidori Thousand Birds. As for Naruto, he gave him 2 ninjutsu from each element to learn over the week. With shadow clones, they sped up the process as Kakashi revealed to Naruto. As he had recalled from the Scroll of Sealing, the shadow clone jutsu created corporeal clones which, once dispelled, returned its chakra and memories to the user. Because of this, using shadow clones to train accelerated the process. What he could complete in an hour could be done in half an hour with a single shadow clone. Since he could spam hundreds, as they found out later, well, you know what happened. The only drawback was things that required muscle memory like taijutsu needed to be done manually, as shadow clones could not help in that. Lastly, with Sakura, she discovered her elements, earth and water, and was taught 1 jutsu each from each element. Kakashi figured that she had only so much chakra to spare, so it would be better if she focused more on being a support type. By dinner at 9, despite still having their work cut out for them, all three had accomplished a milestone. They discussed training over dinner, and that's when Kakashi decided to drop the bombshell. "I suspect Zabuza may still be alive," the Jonin declared suddenly. The Genins froze in shock. "But, how? Why?" Naruto asked, setting down his spoon. "The standard procedure for a hunter nin is to burn a Nukenin's corpse upon killing him. This is to prevent the village's secrets from being leaked. However, as I recall, the Oi nin just took Zabuza away," Kakashi explained. "But are you 100% sure? Facing Zabuza again is a terrifying thought," Sakura asked worriedly. Kakashi reasoned, "That's not the only detail. From what I remember, Senbons are not enough to kill but can induce a death-like state when thrown at the correct spot. In my fatigue I must have overlooked that detail and thought he was really dead. Unfortunately, that means we have at most a week to train before facing Zabuza again, and this time, probably with his accomplice as well. Given his accuracy with the Senbons, this accomplice is no pushover either, so you guys must train as much as possible. Hopefully we'll be able to increase the odds of victory by learning the jutsus which I have just imparted to you." "Alright, so we'll train extra hard this week," Naruto cried, excited to get his ninjutsu up to par with his taijutsu. Their conversation was interrupted by the cold voice of Inari, Tsunami's son. "What's the point of all this training, when you are all going to die at the hands of Gado's men anyways? Why are you still so cheery? What do you know anything about suffering?" Suddenly, the room's temperature dropped a few degrees, making its occupants shiver as killing intent flooded the house, courtesy of Naruto. "Kid, you don't understand how hard of a life we shinobi lead. You think you have it tough. You're wrong. Every day, we must train ourselves to get even the slightest edge against our opponent so that we can live to see the day and go back to our loved ones. We face death every single day. Even the slightest mistake can lead up to our death. So we treasure what we have, and fight for our precious people. You have your mother and grandfather who love and spoil you. People like me don't even have families. I get glared at in my own village, kicked out of stores, overcharged for simple things. All you need to know is, without any precious people, you cease to have a reason to exist. If you don't stand up for yourself, no one else can do it for you, kid." Naruto replied, surprising Sakura with the amount of maturity he had in his tone and reply. In fact, she was shocked that such things even happened to Naruto. Was it true? She decided that she would ask Kakashi-sensei in private, so she would not offend Naruto if he had really gone through such things. Sayuri, on the other hand, felt an inexplicable sense of sadness for Naruto's past. She didn't question the integrity of his words and chose instead to keep silent. Kakashi was also deeply saddened by Naruto's words, knowing they were true. He was well aware of his students' tenet, but was disgusted by the villagers' actions. They took their hatred for the fox out on a defenseless boy who knew nothing of why they did so. Inari was taken aback by Naruto's harsh response, having expected a retarded response about how they were going to find a way to defeat Gado and alleviate the village's suffering. Instead, Naruto's reply was more of a, "You, deal with it bitch, except with instructions how." The kid burst into tears and ran to his bedroom, Naruto's philosophical response still ringing in his head. The blonde took his plate to the sink where Tsunami was and then opened the door. "I'm going to train." The door closed as Naruto stormed off. Kakashi sighed. It can't be helped, he thought. With Naruto, he began practicing all the jutsus he had learnt and spammed shadow clones to help. By 11, he collapsed from exhaustion. With Sayuri, the other two had turned in for the night, but Naruto was not back yet. This had Sayuri slightly worried as it was quite late already. Had the enemies gotten hold of him? Stealthily, she snuck out of the guest room and out of the house, venturing into the nearby forests. About 300 meters away was a huge clearing created by a large array of jutsus. If Naruto had clashed with the enemy, the fight must have been pretty big to leave such a huge trail of destruction. To her relief, she found Naruto lying on the floor, still alive if his light snoring was anything to go by. She sighed and smiled, stifling a laugh. Only he would be capable of doing all this and still sleeping so peacefully like nothing happened. As gently as possible, she picked him up. Leaving him here was not only dangerous but he could also catch a cold out in the forest at night. Slowly, she walked back to the house, careful not to wake the sleeping boy in her arms. Her face flushed when Naruto's sleeping self snuggled deeper into her embrace, pressing against her chest. A ghost of a smile graced her lips. She then re-entered the house shinobi style, through the window. Silently, she landed on the tatami floor of Naruto and Kakashi's room. Their sensei was fast asleep, still recuperating from his overuse of the Sharingan. His awakening earlier to check on them and have dinner left him even more weary when he finally retired to the futon as his rest was incomplete. Well, at least Sayuri could do what she was currently doing. Carefully, she lowered him down onto the futon. The Uchiha located the blanket and pulled it over the sleeping blonde. Under the moonlight, his facial features were relaxed and his expression was one of peace and bliss. It generated an aura of calmness which spread to Sayuri as she tucked her favorite blonde into bed. She found it hard to resist and gave in to her temptations. Softly, she kissed Naruto on the cheek and whispered, "Sweet dreams, Naruto-kun." Now that her mind was at peace, she returned to her room and went to sleep. Unknown to her, while Naruto was most definitely asleep, his lips curled into a smile rarely seen anymore, a smile of true happiness. The next morning, Naruto's eyes snapped open and he groaned as he registered the sunlight piercing through the window. It cast a warm glow throughout the room, illuminating it with the brilliance of the morning. "Rise and shine, Kit!" Kurama yelled from the Minsiesate, howling with laughter when the boy winced as the loud announcement rang in his head. Clearly he wasn't a morning person. Asura took over and declared, "Today we will do something special, Naruto-kun. Go to the local blacksmith and commission the finest sword he can make. When you get it, I'll teach you kenjutsu, sword techniques. It'll be worth it as you get to extend your range of attack." "All right then," Naruto replied telepathically as he stood up and got downstairs for breakfast. "Tsunami-san, is there a blacksmith in this town?" The woman was surprised by the sudden question but nodded. "He's a very famous blacksmith in town, charges highly for his weapons but makes the best swords in Nami no Kuni," Tsunami replied as she jotted down the address. "Here." Naruto took the piece of paper and slipped it into his pocket. "Thanks, Tsunami-san." "Naruto, are you buying a sword?" Kakashi queried. "Yep." Sayuri spoke up. "Can you help get me a chikudo? I'll give you the details on a piece of paper later." "Okay then. I'm leaving after breakfast," Naruto replied, setting down his teacup. Once Sayuri gave him the paper, he left for the address which Tsunami gave. Sayuri and Sakura split up for their individual training first. Kakashi would later gather them for a team exercise when Naruto returned. For now, he guarded Tazuna at the bridge as the bridge builder directed his workers for the massive construction taking place. With Sayuri, in the spot where she found Naruto yesterday, a young girl in pink dress wearing a black choker was plucking plants and depositing them in her basket, seemingly gathering herbs. "Ohio," the girl said as she looked up from her herb picking. "Ohio," Sayuri gave the customary reply. "What are you doing out in the forest so early in the morning?" the Uchiha asked, stopping to catch her name. "Haku," the girl supplied, "I was picking herbs to heal a friend of mine." What about you? I'm Uchiha Sayuri, a kunoichi, and I was going to begin training. Oh, the girl, her head in curiosity. That's interesting. What do you train for? The Uchiha replied, I train to get stronger so that I can kill my brother to avenge my clan. The girl shook her head in disappointment. That's just sad. The Uchiha growled. And who are you to say that? Are you fighting for your own sake? Or to protect others? Haku asked. Sayuri's gaze softened. I don't really know. I guess I fight to avenge my clansmen, but at the same time I also protect the people I love from being harmed by what I do. The girl nodded sympathetically. That's something I understand. It's a different kind of love, and it must kill you inside to be hated by the one you love, because to protect them you must be the villain, huh? Well, you're still fighting to protect someone precious to you, and that's something I respect even greater because you sacrifice more than anybody to protect everybody. I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, until we meet again. Goodbye for now. As Sayuri watched Haku leave the forest clearing, she pondered on her words. She wasn't very successful in shielding Naruto from hurt that he would eventually feel, given that she had done so much for him while he was aware. If she truly wished to care for him while remaining the villain, she should do so covertly. Suddenly, she thought of Itachi. Could it be? No, if he had really wanted to protect her, he wouldn't have committed such a heinous crime as slaying the entire clan except her. He would pay dearly for his crimes, and Sayuri would be the one to mete out justice for her fallen clan. Back to the topic, she was torn between covertly protecting Naruto by being the bad guy, but being unable to protect him openly against threats like Zabuza as she did yesterday, or doing the same thing while allowing herself times to protect him openly, but risking him finding out and loving her back. She decided that she would do the latter but pass it off as being a teammate's duty. It was safer this way. She could still be the bad guy while allowing her to protect him when needed and giving her an excuse to do so. Sigh. Her love life was so complicated. With that thought in mind, she commenced her training to learn and master the Chidori as well as the Sharingan. With Naruto, when he arrived at the given address, he saw a small wooden building with a single floor. Inside, there was a bright glow emanating from the forge. He knocked and entered when told to by the man inside. Welcome to my smith shop, the burly man within said. So, what do you need? Naruto replied, 2 custom-made swords please. I have a particular one in mind for a friend and the other is for myself. He walked up to the stone counter and put down Sayuri's note. This is my friend's specifications for her sword. As for mine, I don't care what you make as long as it's the finest you have to offer. I'll pay you handsomely for it, don't fret. I see, the man responded, taking the piece of paper and scanning through it. Your friend's one is easy to make, however, yours will take quite a while as it'll be my greatest masterpiece yet. Do you mind if it is a Yodo Western sword? Naruto shook his head. As I said, I don't mind whatever you have planned. The blacksmith nodded and handed him a rod. Hold this for me, take a few swings, the blacksmith requested. Naruto did so and the man observed carefully, taking down notes. He's quite strong as that rod is relatively heavy. I figure I'll forge something heavy, a dense material perhaps. Next, he took measurements of Naruto's hand, forearm, and legs to determine the weapon's perfect thickness and length. All right, I'm done. Thanks for your business. I'm Shinyo Akeba, Master Blacksmith of Nami, and it's been a pleasure working with you. You can pick up the swords in a week. Pleasure working with you too. Yane, said Naruto before leaving the forge. A week later, Team 7 alternated between guarding Tazuna and training, and today, it was Sayuri's turn. She scowled as the bridge suddenly became much colder. The fog had thickened and visibility was reduced slightly. For all she knew, Zabuza and the accomplice was back. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura, we have an alert. I think the enemy is back, the Uchiha spoke into her radio. Roger that, heading over. Where's Naruto? Kakashi asked. Sakura replied, I think that idiot overslept, probably still in the house. Good, Kakashi replied. Gato might have sent some of his men to attack the house, so Naruto can guard it for now. Whatever, just be here quick. I don't like the looks of this, urged Sayuri. At that moment, two blurs appeared by her side. It was Kakashi and Sakura, who were training in the forests nearby the bridge in case such a thing should happen. On the other end of the uncompleted bridge, two dark shadows stood menacingly. One had a huge sword hefted on his shoulder. Zabuza, Kakashi called into the mist. Kakashi, this time, I'll finish you off, the Kiri Nukenin replied. Take the black-haired girl. The pink-haired one is useless, so she'll probably be guarding the bridge builder. I'll handle them. And Kakashi, Zabuza whispered to his apprentice. The apprentice nodded. As you wish, Zabuza-sama. Kakashi rattled off instructions. Sayuri, take the accomplice. Sakura, guard Tazuna. I'll deal with Zabuza. Hi. Both genins chorused and moved to their respective positions. The mist thickened considerably before the sound of rapid footfalls echoed across the bridge. Here they come, Kakashi warned before heading off into the fog to face Zabuza. Eerily, the footsteps disappeared. Sayuri turned just in time to block a strike from the accomplice's Senbon. You're mine, the fake hunter nin said, voice devoid of emotion. Sayuri launched a kick to his stomach, however the accomplice backflipped away. As he did, Sayuri took the chance to flash through hand seals. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. A large fireball burst out of her mouth and flew towards the accomplice, who merely shot his hands out before him. Hyoten. Hyogen Domu Ice Style. Ice Rock Dome. Sayuri's eyes widened when a solid dome of ice materialized around the fake hunter nin, shielding him from the blazing sphere of flames. When it dispersed, the ice was intact without even so much as a singe. Hyoten Ice Style. Is that a Kekai Genkai? Sayuri wondered. Her attention returned to the accomplice, who had opened a hole in the dome and was charging towards her. The two engaged in taijutsu and it was clear that the Fakoi nin was faster. He grabbed the Uchiha's arm and formed one-handed hand seals with the other hand. Haijutsu. Sensatsu Susho, Secret Jutsu. 1,000 flying water needles of death, the accomplice uttered. Water in the air materialized into numerous thin icicles that closed in on Sayuri. The Uchiha yanked her hand free and used her kunai to deflect all the incoming projectiles. After she was done, a powerful kick pushed against her chest, sending her crashing away. The fake hunter nin closed in on her and stomped on the ground where she was. Luckily, the Uchiha rolled away in time and recovered, swiping her kunai swiftly at the accomplice. He burst into shards of ice, reappearing behind her. Beware, Haijutsu. Makio Hyosho, Secret Jutsu, Demonic Ice Mirrors. He called. Multiple mirrors made of ice surrounded her in a house-like formation, preventing her escape. In each mirror, there was an image of the fake hunter nin. Sayuri growled. It was infuriating that he was so fast. She didn't want to pull her trump card this early, but if her fireball earlier was anything to go by, normal fire techniques wouldn't work on his ice. Sharingan, she uttered while channeling chakra to her optic nerves. Her ink-black eyes flared with chakra which turned them into a bright vermilion hue. Around her black pupils was a ring with two spinning magatamas. Suddenly, a wave of Senbon rained down on her. Now being able to roughly track the Senbons, she managed to fend off most of the Senbons. Some still made it past her guard, though, and pierced her body. But, she could finally see. It was not that there was one accomplice in each mirror, rather, the fake hunter nin was moving so fast that he appeared to be in every mirror. However, there was a restriction to her eyes. While she could now keep track of the enemy and see the Senbons flying towards her, if her body was not fast enough, she still wouldn't be able to block them. Experiencing her own painful death helplessly in slow motion was definitely not on her to-do list for today, nor any day for that matter. So instead, she tried to shift positions to throw off his accuracy. Still, they were literally everywhere and it was quite hard to evade them all, given that she was trapped in this sadistic house of mirrors. Blocking them with her kunai was her only choice. In the times where one slipped past her guard, it pierced through her delicate skin easily and stung like hell. Worse, they felt very cold and numbed the struck area slightly. Her eyes widened when she saw Zabuza's accomplice shooting out from the mirror. Usually, he traveled along the mirrors, but this time, he flew through the air right at her. With Naruto, earlier, the Uzumaki woke up and realized that Kakashi was gone from the room. When he checked, so was Sayuri and Sakura. Damn it, he overslept again. He went downstairs to find them, but paused mid-step when he heard a commotion downstairs. "Don't kill my mum," Naruto heard Inari cry. "Haha Gaki, we were given orders and we'll follow them. Perhaps we'll kill you first, have some fun with your mum, then kill her too," a man spoke. Clearly, there was more than one due to the "we," but how many exactly? Naruto extended his sensory range and found 4 weak chakra signatures, 1 woman, a child, and 2 men. Yes, he could even tell apart their gender and age based on their chakra signatures. They were weak as they were not shinobi, but civilians still had a small trace of chakra. Obviously, the woman was Tsunami and the child was Inari, meaning there were 2 enemies in the house. Based on their weak chakra presences, they were probably bandits. Naruto could detect the fear and oppression in the environment, Kurama's negative emotions sensing. Well, it was time to step in. Faster than they could see, 2 shadow clones appeared behind the 2 bandits and drove kunais into the base of their skulls. When they collapsed, Tsunami shrieked in horror at the sight. Naruto sighed as he walked down the stairs. "Sorry for the blood, but I have zero tolerance for rapists. If they were here, it probably means Zabuza is back to attack Tazuna-san. I have to go now." In a burst of speed, he disappeared. When he neared the bridge, he noticed Zabuza's oppressive chakra laced throughout the air. Sakura and Tazuna felt fear. Sayuri, alarm. He saw a formation of mirrors where Sayuri was in another chakra signature, a female about the same age as them but slightly older. Her chakra was very special, a Kekkei Genkei, perhaps. Right now, at his current speed, he saw her jumping out of one of the mirrors and lunging towards Sayuri with a Senbon. He ran into the mirrors and tackled the Uchiha to the floor before the person could even react. The enemy girl flew into the opposite mirror and remained there. Now that he had halted, he could not keep track of the girl's movements and it appeared as if she was in every single mirror. Sayuri blinked in surprise before pushing him off. "Why are you here? Once you come in you can't get out," Sayuri whispered fiercely. Naruto defended. "She was flying at you with a Senbon and you appeared frozen there. I had to help." "Wait, she?" Sayuri asked in confusion. "Yes, she's slightly older than us and wields a Kekkei Genkei, I think." "How did you know?" Sayuri asked, bewildered that he had such information considering that he had just entered battle. "Now's not the time to explain. Focus on fighting her. She's fast," the blonde noted. "No shit. Too fast for me to avoid but I can track her movements," Sayuri replied as she eyed the accomplice. "The opposite is true for me. I have the speed to avoid her but I cannot see her in time." "All right then, I'll be your eyes and you'll be my body," Sayuri decided. Naruto nodded and raised a kunai. The fake hunter Nin raised her eyebrow behind the mask. Then, she pounced. 2 o'clock, Sayuri warned. Naruto swiped his hand outwards in the indicated direction and felt his kunai come in contact with the enemy's Senbon. With all his natural strength, he pushed back and sent the opponent flying back into the mirror. She then threw another Senbon at them. 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Sayuri relayed the visual rapidly. Naruto was having a hard time keeping up, because he first had to register what she was saying, then associate it with the direction and then act out accordingly. It didn't help that she began spamming directions as soon as Zabuza's accomplice began rapidly launching Senbons from random directions. The moment their coordination faltered, was the moment the enemy struck. Like snow, the thin needles rained down on Naruto and he did not detect them in time. Quickly, Sayuri performed a substitution and took his place. She braced herself as like a relentless blitz of snow, the thin needles pelted her, turning her into a pincushion for the thousands of Senbons which pierced into her body. Sayuri! Naruto cried as his teammate collapsed to the floor. He kneeled down and propped up her back on his knee. Why did you do that? You could have let me handle it. The Uchiha gave a dry laugh, even in her current state as blood dripped from her mouth. There was no time to think. My body moved on its own, Yujiro Tonkachi. And I promised myself that I would stay alive to kill Itachi. Is this really the end? She thought to herself. Well, at least her death could be useful. Fight on, Naruto, for me. Don't let your dream die. With those words, her eyelids closed shut and her body went limp. Naruto felt her pulse fade away. The blonde's eyes widened. His dream to be Hokage. Where was there time to think of that now when his own teammate was dying before his eyes, and no less for him, so that he could live on? What kind of sick, twisted world did this kind of shit to him? Did he deserve it? Was there something he could do to change it? There had to be something. The fake hunter Nin spoke. She found a strength she never knew she had. Why? Because of a certain person who was precious to her. To save that person, she took his place knowing it was a trap. She was a true ninja, worthy of honor. Is this the first time you have seen a friend die in battle? This is part of what it means to be a ninja. Shut up. Save me the eulogy. I'll kill you right where you stand. Naruto roared in savage fury. His chakra was released, exposing his powerful chakra presence to the world. A large surge of wind radiated outwards from him and the stone floor beneath him cracked, almost shattering under the incredible pressure of his chakra. What is this chakra presence? It's so strong. Nothing I've felt before. Zabuza's accomplice thought. This chakra, the last time I felt it was from Sandaime-sama himself, and even then his was uncomparable to this. This is bad, thought Kakashi worriedly. What is that massive amount of chakra and killing intent? It far surpasses mine in ferocity, Zabuza thought. The rage and the bloodlust was tangible in the air, making it hard to breathe. Sakura and Tazuna were choking and trembling badly as a seemingly new entity altogether entered the battle. His chakra is getting increasingly potent. It's best to strike as soon as possible, the fake Nin thought and readied some Senbons. She flicked her wrist, releasing the projectiles at Naruto. The blonde swiped his hand at the incoming projectiles and they shattered after coming into contact with his chakra. What? The accomplice thought. A yellow Haori shrouded Naruto and 4 black orbs with purple glows floated behind his back. He gave a loud, blood-curdling roar which pierced the ears of all who heard it. It shook the entire bridge and the ice mirrors shattered in a great explosion of chakra. The fierce winds died down as Naruto looked up. His eyes were full of hatred for the one who ended Sayuri's life. The accomplice shivered and realized something. You were way stronger than me. I'm sorry I failed. Zabuza-sama, I'm nothing but a broken and useless tool now. End my life. Naruto was slightly stunned by her thinking. What kind of logic is that? You are not a tool, You are a shinobi in your own right. The fake hunter Nin retaliated, and that's what a shinobi is. A person who is a tool for the person who buys his services. Since I failed, I have no right to live. Now end my life. Naruto was appalled. That's not what a shinobi is. You are a person too, you have emotions and a personality. You do not deserve to die simply because you couldn't defeat an adversary stronger than you. That's stupid. Haku scoffed and tried to rile him up. Is that how weak your will is? When you swore vengeance against me for your friend's death, were they just empty words? Naruto growled and his wrist back. With a punch, he sent her crashing into the ground 10 meters away. She got up, her mask now shattered to reveal the face of Haku. Come on, you can do better than that. Kill me, I deserve death for failing my master. She then heard the crackling of electricity a short distance away. Eyes widening, Haku suddenly said, wait. I still have a final use for my master. An ice mirror formed beneath her feet and she dropped into it, disappearing. With Kakashi, earlier, I should end this quickly. I don't like the feel of that chakra, the Konoha Jonin thought, drawing a scroll from his vest and opening it. He cut his thumb on a kunai in his open-bottomed kunai holster located on his flak jacket. He swiped the blood in a line across the middle of the scroll and sealed it shut. Placing it between his thumbs and index fingers, he formed the hand seals: tiger, snake, dragon, dog. Slamming the scroll onto the ground, he uttered, Kuchios, Doden, Suiga no Jutsu, summoning, Earth style, Fang Pursuit Jutsu. Activating the Doden Jutsu, lines of black kanji scrambled out of the scroll's ends and shot into the ground. The scroll vibrated vigorously as it did so, until there were no more lines exiting it. 10 meters away, where Zabuza was, the lines burst out of the ground and in a flurry of smoke, revealed Kakashi's ninkins. An entire pack of hounds restrained the Kiri Nukenin, allowing him to prepare his ultimate technique against Zabuza. Forming the ox, rabbit and monkey hand seals, Kakashi then brought his right hand palm up with his left hand clutching the other's wrist. A circle of Raiden chakra appeared around his feet, with electric charges shooting up to his right hand like the surface of a plasma ball when touched. It charged his ultimate and original jutsu, which was even stronger than its progenitor, the Chidori. The S-rank Raiden jutsu cackled loudly in his hand, the sound of the gathering of copious amounts of chakra. He slid his hand down and charged towards Zabuza, his Sharingan's vision already tunneling and locking on its target. Reikiri, lightning blade, Kakashi yelled as he sprinted across towards the restrained Nukenin. Suddenly, an ice mirror formed above the space before Zabuza. From it, Haku dropped down and intercepted the assassination jutsu with her own body. Kakashi tried to stop, but it was too late as the Sharingan-piloted linear movement of the Reikiri disallowed him from veering off course from his target. It shrieked like the call of a bird and pierced through Haku's chest, plunging deep into her lung cavity and destroying her heart with the influx of Raiden chakra. Zabuza smirked in satisfaction. Looks like I found a useful tool. Naruto heard him and yelled, was that all you ever thought of her? A tool, HN, he replied and broke free of his Ninken bonds. Hefting Kubikiribocho off his back, he pulled his sword arm back. Alarmed, Kakashi thought, he intends to take me out together with the child. He drew Haku in close to his body and backflipped away just as Zabuza swung his sword at them. When Kakashi landed, he put Haku on the floor and pulled his bloody hand out of her corpse. He placed 2 fingers on her eyelids and slid them shut. Gomefuku wo Inorimasu, Kakashi whispered, wishing her peace in the afterlife. Oh, if only he knew how the afterlife was. He stood up and glared at Zabuza. You disgust me. He threw 2 kunais which buried them's leaves deep into Zabuza's left shoulder. Angered, Zabuza charged at Kakashi, his left arm now limp from the injury. The Konoha Jonin threw a right hook at his face and performed a spinning heel kick which sent him back. Growling, the Nukenin swung his sword horizontally, which Kakashi jumped up to avoid it. Then, he swung it down in a vertical chop. It planted itself deep into the ground where Kakashi was earlier. The Konoha Jonin appeared behind him in a shunshin and brought his hand to the swordsman's neck. "You shall die now," Kakashi said without emotion. "That's what you told me in the previous chapter," Zabuza muttered under his breath. "Pardon, nothing." Kakashi was about to strangle him when from the uncompleted end of the bridge, a man in a business suit clapped his hands. Surrounding him were dozens of his mercenaries. "Well well well, looks like you couldn't even take care of a couple of Konoha nin and an old geezer, Zabuza. But that's fine, because I never intended to pay you anyways," came the snobbish voice of Gato. "My plan was to let the Konoha nin finish you off, and while they were all still weakened by you, have my henchmen kill the men and rape the women." Biwahaha. "Well, at least that bitch is dead." Strolling over to Haku's corpse, he gave it a kick and stomped on her arm. I'll kill you," Zabuza shouted with rage. A shroud of chakra emanated from him in the form of a purple demon. "Sharingan no Kakashi, let's call a truce. I want to kill Gato and his men," Zabuza declared. "Give me a kunai." Kakashi nodded and tossed one over to the Nukenin, who clutched it between his teeth. Ditching the Kubikiribocho, he charged at Gato and his men with a savage cry. Ditching the Kubikiribocho, he charged at Gato and his men with a savage cry. There were no words to describe the ensuing carnage. It was simply this, a massacre. The demon of the mist cut down every single henchman standing there. Though some had time to slash or stab at him with their weapons while he was dealing with their colleagues, others were simply too intimidated to do anything as they were bisected by Zabuza's kunai. Eventually, Zabuza reached the magnate, who was shivering in fear. The cornered Gato was literally between the devil and the deep blue sea, for Zabuza had him trapped right at the edge of the bridge. Don't kill me, I'll pay you," Gato pleaded. The Nukenin shook his head. "I grow tired of your lies, Gato. This is for Haku." With a single swipe, he disemboweled the tyrant while sending him down into a watery grave. Zabuza, too, was already extremely exhausted. His various injuries began to take their toll on him as he strode weakly to Haku's corpse before collapsing next to her. "Kakashi," he rasped out, gaining the attention of the nearby Jonin, "I have a final wish. Bury me next to Haku." The white-haired Jonin nodded solemnly, watching as the swordsman passed away. The two would be buried with honor. The gathered villagers cheered loudly, for Gato's monopoly had finally been broken. Naruto did not share the same sentiments, as once the adrenaline wore off, he remembered that his teammate had died for him. His knees became weak when he came near the body of Sayuri. Her corpse was riddled with numerous senbons. Tears of sorrow filled his eyes before they dripped onto the peaceful face of his teammate. Voice-stricken with grief, he whispered, "You did not have to die. So why? Kami, please tell me, at the very least, she deserved a funeral as grand as Zabuza and his accomplice. Her current state was not one Naruto would consider fit for burial." He started removing the senbons, one by one. Suddenly, he heard a gasp. He halted his actions and listened carefully. Could he have been mistaken? There was no point in raising his own hopes only to have them shattered. But unmistakably, Sayuri's chest was rising and falling slowly while she took in deep breaths. Her eyes snapped open, much to Naruto's surprise and relief. "Sayuri!" Naruto cried happily, hugging the seemingly revived girl. Though the Uchiha was secretly enjoying the warmth of his embrace, she was starting to find it hard to breathe. "Dobi," she choked out, "can't breathe." "Sorry," said Naruto, releasing her from his grip sheepishly. A thought occurred to him before he entered Six Paths Sage mode, utilizing his yang power to heal her wounds. Instantly, it left him drained. It was him who collapsed into her chest, making her sigh as she stood up slowly with the blonde in her arms bridal style. Let's go back. I'm so done with this mission, Sayuri stated. Sakura could not help but agree. Kakashi was too tired to say anything and simply picked up the two corpses, carrying them along with him so they could receive a proper burial. Within days, stories of Naruto's heroism spread far and wide across the country. His huge role in combating the tyranny of Gato and gathering the villagers through Inari was well received by the population of Nami, who named him the Nami no Ayu, hero of Wave. The other members of Team 7 were celebrated as well, of course, but none as much as Naruto. Only 12 and you've already gotten your first title, You're really something, Naruto, Kakashi thought when he first heard of the news. This moniker of his came in handy when he went to retrieve his swords days later. Come in, came the voice of Shinyo Akeba over sounds of hammering. The blacksmith turned his head and noticed the blonde enter his store. It's you, you're Uzumaki Naruto, aren't you? Naruto raised an eyebrow. How did you know? I do not believe I disclosed my name in our previous meeting. Akeba chuckled. Oh, who doesn't know your name these days? You're the Nami no Ayu. Naruto took that tidbit of information in his stride and replied, my reputation precedes me, as the appropriate response, I suppose. Blah, who am I kidding with all this formality? Let's get down to business, Shinyo-san. That's more like it, said the blacksmith as he took out two swords from his forge. The first was a chikudo which had a black scabbard and matching hilt, and was a larger size than a normal chikudo. This is what I call the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, grass-cutting sword. Of course, it has none of the special properties granted by the legendary Kusanagi, but it is very durable and can cut through most things. Plus, the blade is made of chakra metal so the user can apply chakra flow, Akeba declared with pride. I made it exactly as your friend requested it to be, so there should be no problems. As for yours, the second sword was pitch black with trims of gray, feeling evenly balanced when held. It had a black hilt connected to a hand guard that dropped down on the right side. Attached to this elongated area of the hand guard was part of the blade which was completely black like the rest of the sword and outlined in a light gray. This, I call the Aim no Murakumo no Tsurugi, Celestial Cloud Gathering Sword, my greatest masterpiece yet, the master blacksmith announced. Naruto's sweat dropped. That's a cool name and all, but is there something shorter? The man thought for a while before replying, you can also call it the Elucidator, for it cuts through even the thickest darkness to bring light. I'm not exaggerating, you could try. Naruto shrugged and brought the sword to a dark corner of the store. Indeed, the blade itself seemed to emanate a dim glow of its own. When swung, it left behind a trail of light that could potentially blind enemies. Anyways, as for its properties, I made it such that it was heavy enough to be wielded by you but not others. Thus, it may feel balanced to you but it's pretty hard to use for someone else. Also, given its weight, there is a lot of momentum behind the swings, which is why I designed the handle to retain your grip and prevent it from flying away, Akeba explained. The blade itself is extremely durable, I broke 3 anvils shaping it. The material is melded from adamantine and chakra metal, so it glows in reaction to your chakra and chakra flow works with it too. Thanks, Shinyo-san. So how much for the two? Naruto asked while returning the sword to its adamantine sheath. They are completely free of charge, the blacksmith said. Naruto replied, these two are fine swords that can fetch a high price. I must pay for them, or it will be a waste of your time and effort. Akeba shook his head. Take them as gifts for your valiant heroism. If you truly wish to repay me, promise that you will use the swords for good like what you did for our country. Do this, and the swords will never fail you. Your debt will then be repaid. Naruto opened his mouth, but then closed it in acceptance of his gifts. Thank you Shinyo-san. I will never forget this. Neither will I, for your service to my country. See you again. Chizuna's house. Yo Sayuri, here's your Kusanagi no Tsurugi. Naruto shouted from downstairs. When the Uchiha's head peeked over the parapet, he tossed the Chikudo up the stairs. She caught the spinning sword and examined it as she descended the staircase. It's a beautiful work of art. I'm gonna train with it now. Same for my sword, Naruto replied, and they went separate ways into the forest. While Sayuri's aim was to integrate the sword into her Uchiha fighting style, the interceptor fist, Naruto's purpose was to learn as many moves as possible from Asura and then perfect each and every one. Meanwhile, the bridge's construction was still underway, of course. Shadow clones dotted the huge bridge, providing security in case the remnants of Gato's mercenaries returned to finish the job. Thankfully, no such thing happened, and within 4 days, the bridge was finally completed. In accordance with their mission scope, they had to leave on the day of completion. As for their mission pay, they were already paid fully for the A rank, as mysteriously, someone had left a huge sum of money with the villagers one day, which amounted exactly to the money Gato took from them. Which blonde was it who launched this covert operation? Till today, it still remains a mystery. The villagers were sad to see them go and threw them a farewell party. The population of Nami was gathered to see them off, and also mark the occasion of the first people to set foot on the bridge and cross it. Naruto Nisan, I'll miss you, said Inari with tears in his eyes. Said blonde replied while wiping away the child's tears, cheer up Inari, I'll be back one day. Promise, promise. They made a pinky promise to seal the deal, and with that, Team 7 set off. The villagers cheered as the Konoha-nin left Nami no Kuni on the newly finished bridge. Chizuna witnessed the retreating backs of the people who had saved his country and smiled at the thought of the blonde. That boy changed Inari's heart, and Inari changed the people's hearts. That boy gave us a bridge to hope, called courage. Bridge, oh yeah, we need to name this bridge. Well, I have a perfect name for this bridge. Oh, what is it? Inari asked. How about the Great Naruto Bridge? Chizuna suggested. Hee, that's a good name. Inari replied. The villagers present cheered in assent. This name is in hope that this bridge will never crumble, and will one day become a super famous bridge whose name is known throughout the world. Konohagakure. Upon arrival, Team 7 went to the Hokage's office as it was after 12 noon. In the morning till 12, the Hokage would be at the mission assignment desk giving out D to B rank missions. After 12, the Hokage would be at his office, clearing paperwork and giving out the occasional A or S rank where security and privacy were paramount. Thus, Team Kakashi found themselves being debriefed in the third's office. After a lengthy report due to the upgrade of the mission ranking, they were finally dismissed. Sayuri, Sakura, shall we go for lunch together? Naruto suggested. The Pinkett shook her head. Sorry, my parents are waiting for me as the mission took longer than expected, the Haruno replied, walking away. What about you, Sayuri? Naruto offered. The Uchiha responded, me neither. I have to go home and train. The moment she said that, his eyes lit up in excitement, making her regret her statement instantly. Can I train with you then? No, please. I said no, Sayuri rejected firmly. The Uzumaki pouted and used his doggy eyes on her. Just this once, please. Seeing his irresistibly cute expression, her resolve crumbled away. Reluctantly, she finally said, all right, but don't mess up my house. Naruto gave a mental cheer as he succeeded with persistence. The blonde followed the Uchiha to the clan district. Along the way, the two were the object of the villagers' stares of disdain. Why is Uchiha-sama with that duh? I cannot allow that brat to taint her. That boy does not deserve to stand on the same ground as the great Uchiha-sama. These were among the many mutters and whispers of the spiteful villagers. Sayuri ignored them and said to Naruto, "Let's take to the rooftops. I don't like being watched by them like some procession." Naruto nodded, and in a blur, both appeared on the roof of the nearest building. Up there, it was peace and quiet with nobody to disturb them. The only people who they crossed paths with were other shinobi, and even they didn't bat an eyelash as they sped past them, for they had urgent business of their own to settle. Within 2 minutes of free running, the duo made it to the clan district. From there, the two teammates returned to the streets and arrived at the Uchiha clan compound. It was a massive compound with cobblestone walls stretching far away in either direction of the main entrance. According to Sayuri, the compound was 7 hectares large. It was a big clan, after all. The main gate was styled like the entrance to a shrine, with blue flaps hanging down from the top and the Uchiha crest emblazoned on them. Sayuri pushed the 2 flaps aside and entered. From the gate, a rocky path led to a huge cluster of houses, the center of which was the main house for the clan head where Sayuri resided. On either side of the houses, huge training grounds with trees growing everywhere were abound. Sayuri opened the door and shed her boots. "Come in. Don't track dirt into the house." Naruto complied and was awed by the sight of Sayuri's house. It was a gorgeous traditional Japanese house, with sliding doors and shoji screens being a common feature. She came to the kitchen and said, "Sit down. We need to have something for lunch, so I'm making something." "What do you want?" "So you were gonna eat lunch before training?" accused Naruto. Sayuri huffed and repeated her question. "I dunno, ramen." The Uchiha shook her head. "You know what, I'll think of something. Stay still while I cook." She went around the kitchen and checked the closets for ingredients. After deciding what she wanted to make, she assembled the ingredients on the counter and pulled off an apron from a hook. With that, she got to work. Naruto observed the girl in a daze as she moved efficiently about the kitchen, her apron swaying in the wind with her graceful footsteps. Her hips looked like they were sashaying on purpose, making her look incredibly sexy. Almost as if the blonde slapped himself mentally. Had he really just thought of his teammate like that? But could it be? No, she hated his guts after all, with all the dobi and Yujiratonkachi thing going on. He then heard a chuckle from within his mindscape. Or so it may seem. She did save you twice in that wave mission already, you know. Kurama pointed out. Naruto shook his head. "She's my teammate. Saving me is just a regular thing we do for each other." The great fox gave a shrug. "Or so she may make it seem. Not that I favor Madara's transmigrant, just saying that there's more than meets the eye with that Uchiha girl." This was the first time Naruto saw her as more than just a teammate but rather, a girl, and a girl with feelings at that. There was no more time to think, however, as Sayuri had finished making lunch and set the plates down at the table. They were onigiri, balls of rice wrapped with seaweed and topped with katsuobushi, dried, fermented, smoked skipjack tuna. Naruto eyed them suspiciously, as he did for every food that wasn't ramen. "Are you sure this will taste nice?" The Uchiha scowled at him as she sat down. "Just eat up, Dobi. It won't kill you." That didn't do anything to assure him. "Itadakimasu." Skeptically, he picked it up and took a small bite. Flavor burst in his mouth and his eyes went wide. "It's delicious. I think I may have just found my second favorite food in the world." Sayuri shook her head in amusement. "Of course it is. It is a special recipe passed down exclusively through the Uchiha clan." Her voice faltered halfway as thoughts of her dead clan plagued her. Naruto noticed this and looked up from his food. "What's wrong, Sayuri? Are you all right?" The girl shook off his concern and said, "Never mind. Let's just eat." As soon as they finished, they jumped straight into training. First off was a light kenjutsu spar to assess each other's skills. While Sayuri's attacks were more chained and fluid in transition as they originated from katas in the interceptor fist, Naruto's moves were much more isolated but deadly in their own right due to his speed and power. As such, the Uchiha decided to teach Naruto some forms and stances as well as how to combine his movements. The Uzumaki, on the other hand, taught Sayuri how to improve and vary her strength and speed to confuse the enemy instead of sticking too much to the katas, which would increase predictability should an enemy have encountered it before. Both agreed that precision was of utmost importance. Next, was a normal spar to test each other's taijutsu and ninjutsu. Clearly, Naruto was more adept in taijutsu, and even with the Sharingan, it was hard for her to predict his next move. They were chaotic but powerful, as his namesake, Maelstrom, suggested. Asura's fighting style, after all, was tailored to counter the powerful eyes of his older brother. However, in ninjutsu, Naruto fell short. While the blonde had a larger arsenal, Sayuri's techniques were more powerful in terms of destruction. With such evaluations complete, they decided to exchange jutsus and katas. "I'll teach you the Uchiha Ryu, Higasa no Mai Uchiha style, Halo Dance, one of my clan's famous kenjutsu techniques. Most famously put to use by Shunshin no Shisui, Shisui of the Body Flicker, a famous Uchiha. This jutsu involves chakra flow, so I suppose I'll have to teach you that first," Sayuri explained. Chakra flow refers to both the flowing of chakra through an object as well as any technique that increases the potency of a weapon by flowing chakra through it. Usually, elemental chakra is used to flow through bladed weapons in order to either dramatically increase their various pre-existing properties or to gain additional advantageous effects. The user must be touching the tool to initiate chakra flow, but direct contact with the weapon is not necessary to maintain chakra flow, Sayuri read from her clan scroll. Wind chakra is used in order to increase the sharpness of bladed weapons, so much so that in the hands of an experienced user even small blades are capable of piercing substantial rocks easily, leading to the assertion that this chakra is unparalleled offensively in close and mid-ranged fights. This effect is achieved by utilizing two opposing chakra currents, which are ground against each other in such a manner that they sharpen one another into fine pieces. Understood. Naruto nodded. Lightning chakra, as applied to weapons, provides an increased cutting power similar to that of wind, with the addition of inducing numbness. However, this is instead achieved by inducing high-frequency vibrations within the object. Earth chakra seemingly increases the defensive power of an object to its utmost limits, by further reinforcing the inherent properties of the material involved. This results in the material becoming as hard as diamond and an increase in the overall destructive power of physical attacks. Fire chakra engulfs the desired weapon in intense localized flames, which follow the subsequent path of the object in question, incinerating anything which comes into direct contact. Lastly, water chakra, being a neutral element, has no known added properties when chakra flow is applied to a weapon. Unless you wish to lubricate yourself, I don't really see a point in applying sweetened chakra to a weapon or yourself. Naruto smirked. Kinky. Sayuri blushed. Ignoring his comment, she continued, "So, for the Halo Dance, it applies Kaden chakra flow to your sword. When released in the correct manner, swipes will create waves of flame which will fly at the enemy." The blonde boy soaked up the information like a sponge. After a demonstration, he replicated the movements but was unsuccessful in producing anything but a small flame. Thus, the Uchiha deduced that his chakra control had to be fine-tuned even further from his current level before he could move on to chakra flow. They spent the rest of the day practicing chakra control. In fact, for the next few weeks, after the daily D-rank mission, they would stay back together and keep on practicing until they could bring both their chakra control to a suitable standard. Certainly, mastery would take a long time, but for now, his chakra control was adequate after 3 weeks of practicing chakra control with shadow clones and just that. By then, He had completed approximately 5 years and 9 months worth of chakra control exercises due to his daily 100 shadow clone abuse. Finally, he was able to move on to the technique itself. On the third try, he was able to produce a great coat of flames around his blade. It took another week of training before he finally managed to fling it with sufficient accuracy. He was overjoyed upon completing the technique, so much so that he even treated Sayuri to ice cream. He couldn't wait to use it on a mission in a real combat situation. Naruto's prayers were answered when his team returned from yet another Capture the Demon Cat mission. Dananahan, it's been a month since your last C rank mission, so this time, I'm assigning you guys another, the aged Hokage announced. Yada, Naruto cried. Sayuri and Sakura smiled too. It had been a while since they last had a proper mission and their combat skills were getting rusty. This mission was assigned by the Fire Daimyo himself, in the faith that we would be able to complete the mission without fail as with our track records. Thus, it is important that you do not fail, for the reputation of Konoha is at stake. Is that clear? Hi, Hokage-sama, Team Kakashi chorused. It was obviously an important mission if it involved the feudal lord of Fire Country. This was getting interesting. On to the mission details. The Fire Daimyo is holding his birthday party tomorrow evening. Many distinguished guests will be there as well, making it a huge target for any enemies wishing to eliminate the dignitaries present. Therefore, he has hired us for precaution to act as bodyguards, and particularly, one of the team members had to be able to play an instrument. Hiruzen briefed. This is because he does not want to cause alarm to his guests. As such, he wants every bodyguard to be disguised as guests, with the one who can play the instrument disguised as one of the musicians present. Understood. Team 7 nodded. But who can play the instrument? Inquired Naruto. Blushing, Sakura raised her hand. I play the shamisen. The Hokage continued. You are the only shinobi left in my force who can play an instrument and is not currently engaged in a mission. Thus, I chose your team for this mission. Besides, seeing how you guys handled the mission to Wave, I can tell that this genin team is far from ordinary in terms of combat prowess. In the rare event where a jonin is involved, I'm sure between your 3 special eyes, 2 healers and combined teamwork, you can deal with that. Am I wrong? Team 7 shook their heads. Good. So don't disappoint me, or the daimyo. And since Madame Shijimi is already outside after collecting Tora, you guys are also to escort her back to the capital. Dismissed. For the second time, Team 7 left the village. The entire way, Madame Shijimi was chatting about life in the capital. Fortunately, they left their sensei to entertain the talkative woman. By the time they arrived at the capital, it was already 8 at night. First off, they stopped at the Fire Daimyo's palace. It was a lavishly decorated place, with the reception hall filled with fancy furniture and paintings that were perhaps used to start conversations on their acquisition. The floors were carpeted with red velvet, leading to other rooms which were similarly decorated. In the main hall itself, a platform rose above the rest of the room where the throne was located. There, the feudal lord sat while awaiting the arrival of his guests. It was in this very room that Team 7 bowed down to the supreme ruler of Fire Country, his only equal being the Hokage. Please rise, the Fire Daimyo requested. His wife had already departed from their group and went to her husband's side. As I'm sure Hokage Dono has briefed you guys, my birthday party tomorrow will involve many important guests. Therefore, I would appreciate if you guys disguised yourselves to be as inconspicuous as possible. Your faces are surely easily recognizable, Sharingan no Kakashi, Nami no Ayu. Thus, I am giving you guys an allowance to buy the clothes you need. You can keep the clothes and whatever money is left. Thank you, Daimyo-sama, Team 7 chorused. For now, I have arranged for your accommodation at a hotel. Please rest well for tomorrow. With a bow, The team retreated after being given the address to the hotel. The daimyo seems like a nice man. He even knew our monikers, Naruto said once they left the palace. Kakashi shrugged. The daimyo keeps close tabs on his shinobi. They came to the address and found a grand hotel almost as luxurious as the palace. If they had to guess, it was for foreign dignitaries and other VIPs. They were assigned a penthouse suite with 2 bedrooms and 2 beds each. Obviously, the males couldn't sleep in the same room as the females, so they split themselves up by gender. It was a rather tiring day for everyone, and so they hit the sack as soon as possible. The next day, Naruto woke up to Kakashi shaking him vigorously. Seeing that his eyes were open, the Jonin spoke, "Wake up, Naruto. Sakura and Sayuri are already waiting for us downstairs." The boy sat up in the unfamiliar sheets and remembered that he was on a mission. Almost like a stark contrast to his earlier state, he leapt out of bed and into the bathroom. As soon as he brushed his teeth and packed the bed, he left with Kakashi for the first floor where breakfast was held in a buffet style at the hotel's restaurant. Sayuri and Sakura were already seated, having maple syrup pancakes. The 2 males got themselves 2 servings of the same food and sat down with the girls. Between bites which seemingly passed through his mask, Kakashi ordered, "We shall begin planning after breakfast." The genins nodded in unison. Team 7 returned to the suite and began planning. Kakashi took out a piece of paper and mapped out the main hall where the feudal lord's birthday party was to be held. Marking the platform with a cross, he said, "Sakura, as one of the musicians, you'll be positioned here on the platform. This will give you a good vantage point of the guests. Check for any suspicious activity." The Pinkett nodded. Kakashi crossed one of the shoji screens positioned near the daimyo's throne and continued, "I'll be standing here disguised as one of the daimyo's butlers. If any of you 3 notice anything suspicious, signal to me and I'll relay the message to the others." "What about us?" asked Naruto. "You and Sayuri will be disguised as a couple," one of the guests. "This will allow you 2 to move freely among the crowd while remaining uninterrupted by any curious guest, as you 2 are busy doing stuff couples do." Naruto raised an eyebrow. The logic was sound, but it would be slightly awkward to work with Sayuri in that way. To his surprise, the Uchiha didn't complain and instead asked, "What is our attire?" "Ever the practical one. I'll leave that choice up to you guys, but keep in mind that they must fit your role." "Now let's go do some shopping," Kakashi replied. The 4 took the daimyo's allowance and left the suite. Later, Sakura got a pink floral kimono and a green obi to match. She performed a henge into an older woman who looked 25, resulting in a pretty mature and formal appearance. Kakashi got a tuxedo for his butler role and combed his hair forward, such that he looked like his father. Hitaki Tsukumo, the legendary Konoha no Shiroi Kiba, Konoha's White Fang, said to be on par with the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninja. The 2 left first as they were to be at the party preparing beforehand. Naruto had acquired a black coat with an indigo, long-sleeved, collared shirt, over which was a gray vest. He also donned black pants, a purple belt, and dark blue fingerless gloves. Concealed beneath the coat was the Aim no Murakumo no Tsurugi. To fit his clothes, he applied a henge to look like what he possibly would appear like in the future. As for Sayuri, she bought a simple strapless black dress for the party, applying a henge to look like an older version of herself as well. Being a female Uchiha, she was already blessed with natural beauty, but seeing her gorgeous body was just too much for Naruto. For Kami's sake she looked like Makoto, who was a pretty hot lady herself. The Uchiha noticed him checking her out and scowled. "What are you staring at, Dobi?" Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and blurted out, "Nothing, you just look very beautiful, Sayuri-chan." A faint blush tinted the girl's cheeks. She teased back, "Is that right? Well, you're pretty handsome yourself, Whiskers-kun." She drawled out the nickname and was rewarded with an embarrassed expression on Naruto's face. Perhaps he was sensitive about his whiskers. Whatever the case, they were about to be late for the party if they did not leave now, for it started at 5. Sayuri spoke, "Come on, the party is about to start. Remember, keep your eyes on the enemy." The blonde nodded firmly as he locked the suite door behind them. He then offered her his arm. "Shall we?" The Uchiha took it and both strode to the palace, where an unknown enemy lay ahead.